KODI on 96.7 FM, 1400 AM. Now it's time for the award-winning Speak Your Piece. Now, here's your host, Mack Watson.
Welcome to another edition of Speak Your Piece. My guests are in studio today. They are Rebekah Burns. She is head of the Powell Economic Partnership. And Tom Rullman, he owns GT Aeronautics at the Powell Municipal Airport. Good morning, and thanks for coming in this morning. I know it's really cold, so thanks for being here.
Good morning. Thanks for having us.
Not a problem. So this is a little different. We're going to talk about Park County prosperity. That's kind of like the subtitle of this show. Examining growth through the lens of generational development, and what does that mean? So we're going to talk about long-term projects that basically shape the financial stability of, Powell, Cody, Meeteetse, Park County, basically. And we're going to do this like once a month, where we're going to, put somebody like Rebekah with a business owner and basically talk about how do we sustain success and what does success look like economically in Park County. So let me start with you, Rebekah. What does generational economic stability, or what does that mean for you? How does that impact what you do?
It all boils down to vision. And what is vision?
Okay.
It's imagination with curiosity and courage.
Okay.
If you have imagination for something that does not yet exist, and you have enough curiosity to research, find materials, stakeholders, experts, so on and so forth, to make the vision realize, and then you have to have enough courage to interact, to persuade, to convince people.
Cajole, maybe?
Sometimes cajoling, yeah. Right. To convince people that this is a good idea for them, and it really is intended for the greater good. How
do you do that, though? Is it showmanship? Is it, you can't do it by force, really, but I mean, is it influencing? Is it numbers? Like, hey, if we do this, the economic impact could be this big number. Like, how do you convince somebody this is the direction we need to go?
So the way the show was set up was generational economic development.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, especially in rural locations, this is exactly how this plays out. There has been a vision idea, maybe some planning for a potential project, and it might have happened 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. So from my perspective as a local economic developer and someone who wants to honor the intent of the forefathers who have these ideas, first you do a lot of research. You look into past documents. You look into past planning. Is the original idea or development idea, would it still work?
Yeah.
And how can it be morphed into today's economy? What does that actually look like? So you do a lot of research. You're looking at all the planning. If plans don't exist, you create those plans. You gather your stakeholders. You're often interacting with city and county planning and zoning professionals pretty much right from the start. And I'll just pause right there and say, Joy Hill from Park County Planning and Zoning is awesome. I love working with her.
She is great. I love her.
Ben Hubbard is the staff member in the city of Powell who does all the planning and zoning, and I also really enjoy working with Ben. So it helps to have people with a shared vision and who are like-minded in those government positions. Those are the Joy and Ben are staffers, right?
Yeah.
So then you have planning and zoning commissions. So, of course, we hear a lot about the Park County Planning and Zoning Commission, who are appointed by the county commissioners and can decide, right? And then you have the county commissioners. Those are the layers of government that you're dealing with. Staff, boards of some kind that are generally appointed, and then you're dealing with the elected officials themselves. So everybody has to get on the same page.
Right.
A huge part of that stakeholder pool is individual businesses, because ultimately government doesn't run business does, right? And so government sets the stage, they create the infrastructure, they create the planning, they go out to their constituents and look at the desire of the community. But it's really people like me that help facilitate business to thrive. And if I've done my job right, ultimately business can come into a community and doesn't even need to contact my office.
Okay.
The stage is already set. The infrastructure is there. The opportunities are laid before them, and everyone is kind of in line. And that's how growth happens.
Do you find it a hard sell to sell a town or an area like Park County or like Powell? Or is it pretty easy because we've got pretty good infrastructure? We've got pretty good layers. How hard is that to, say, get a business from out of state to move to Powell or move to Cody in order to, thrive here?
So it depends on the
Okay.
business. It really depends.
Okay.
If you're looking for manufacturing, for example, it's really pretty difficult. Our industrial zone we don't have any space in it.
Right,
It needs
right.
to grow. And so that's kind of what we're going to talk about, the Powell Municipal Airport and the airport expansion and why it's so important to Powell a little bit further when we talk to Tom. So the answer is it really depends. I'll say I wish that everybody kind of just did what I just said. Do the research, look at the past documents,
Right.
see the intent of the cities, the county, the state, so on and so forth. Gather your stakeholders, make sure that the city staff, planning and zoning boards and the city elected officials are all on the same page.
Yeah.
And then
That's
you
kinda hard to
insert
do, though.
the business.
Isn't that hard to do, to get everybody on the same page?
Well, I think a lot of times Wyoming tries to do this in the opposite manner. They try to insert the business and then quickly figure out how it fits into the planning,
I see.
get the stakeholders, and then get the government on board.
I see. Okay. So there is a push-pull kind of thing to the process. Okay. So
You have to have a
Yeah.
vision.
Yeah. You have to have a vision first, and then you do your due diligence. Okay.
Yes.
Where you're listening to Speak Your Piece, this is part of the Park County Prosperity. We'll call it a different kind of show, examining generational economic growth through the lens of generational development here in Park County. We're going to have more Speak Your Piece coming up right here on KODI. Speak Your Piece continues now on KODI. Part of the Park County Prosperity Series, if you will, examining generational economic growth through the lens of generational development. Rebekah Burns from the Powell Economic Partnership is here. Also, Tom Rullman, who actually owns GT Aeronautics, located at the Powell Municipal Airport. So, Tom, let's get into your story a little bit. How long have you been doing this? Why did you start it? And what brought you to Powell instead of putting it at some other airport, some other state? Tell us your story.
Okay, well, it's a long story. I started GT Aeronautics back in 2003.
Okay.
And it evolved from my past. I was a Navy pilot, a light attack pilot, and I could see, as a kid, I flew a lot of radio control airplanes and model aircraft. But as the unmanned aircraft thing started happening in 1995, roughly, and maybe a little bit before that even, I saw an application where I could design UAVs, unmanned aircraft, for specific weaponized missions. And so that's how the company started, really, in 2003. It was all about building weaponized unmanned aircraft.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but
ahead.
did you see a need and want to fill the niche? Is that how you started it? Or did somebody come to you and go, you'd be really good at this? And you're like, yeah, you're right.
No, I had an aeronautical engineering degree from Ohio State, and what ended up happening is, I saw the need in the military that unmanned aircraft were coming. They're starting to use them for surveillance and things like that, but nothing weaponized. But I came from a weaponized community,
right.
And so I saw this. Okay, we can weaponize these things and use them as essentially cruise missiles.
Yeah, right.
And so that's where it all evolved
Okay.
from. And that's what I started building all the way back in 2003.
So in 2003, were you here?
No, I was in Simi Valley, California.
Okay, so how did you get to Powell?
Okay, so
and why? Why settle in Powell?
Well, I have two sons. Both of them ended up in the military. And after the kids left the house, we could see the writing on the wall back. It was around the 2015 time frame.
Mm-hmm.
We had no connectivity to California anymore. And like I said, you could see the writing on the wall, what was happening there. And
I see. Lifestyle-wise, political-wise, that kind of stuff. Okay.
And lifestyle, yeah. So the cost of everything going up, and even for business, it was pretty amazing. It costs so much to run a business in California.
So regulated, right?
Yeah, and in fact, the last regulation that was the straw that broke the camel's back was the rain tax. And if it rains on top of your building and you don't clean the water, you had to pay a fee.
Right.
And so that's what kicked us out of there. So we had offers from different states, Texas, Tennessee, North Carolina.
So people were coming to you saying, hey, bring your business here.
Yeah, and Wyoming was one of them. And so in a discussion, a very short discussion with the governor's office up here in Wyoming, I looked at it and said, well, all these other places have unique capabilities. Wyoming, the one thing that we need for unmanned aircraft is kind of wide open spaces, and Wyoming had wide open spaces. So, and as luck would have it, we researched it. Long story short, our truck broke down in Riverton, and we were going to Cody that day. And when my wife and I drove down Main Street in Cody, we looked at it and said, oh my gosh, this is where we're going to live. And so that's how we ended up here.
So what makes the Powell Airport vital for you to do your business? Why the Powell Airport? Why not buy your own land, make your own landing strip, or come to Cody? What was it about the Powell Municipal Airport that you really found fascinating?
Well, we first we needed to have a manufacturing facility, and so
you needed a building.
We needed a building, and the Powell Airport had hangars, and hangars are kind of suited for that. A lot of people ask us, why didn't you go to Cody Airport? Because there's so many houses and everything. There's infrastructure right here in Cody. You can't really fly unmanned aircraft over them. And it gets into the regulatory process with the FAA and unmanned aircraft. So Powell was unique in that they had wide open spaces out to the north and west of the airport, just all BLM land. And we run this process with the FAA to move our aircraft into a certified status. And that involved getting an operational area to fly in. And because the airport was right there, because it was very low traffic, I mean, there's not that much manned aircraft traffic there at Powell Airport, it was more conducive to put it there and go down that path. And that way we could show the FAA, here's where we have our operation. This is what we'd like to do to create this area to fly unmanned aircraft in.
So again, real bare bones. You manufacture stuff and then test it out of the airport.
Yeah.
How many employees does that take? How many people do you employ?
We had originally we had 11 people. Not all of them paid, but they were management people, and then we had worker bees that were the paid employees, and we brought those. None of them came up here. We had to find them up here.
Okay.
A lot of the times we solicit the local high school, believe it or not, to help out with things. We had 3 employees there. Right now we're kind of in it's rolled back a little bit. Everything is rolled back, so we've been sitting tight, trying to get our products in front of the DoD again.
I see.
Because there was a time when we moved from California. We moved in 2016, and we didn't have a facility until 2019.
Oh wow!
So there was a 3-year gap there where we couldn't get a facility put together.
So you got to ramp it back up, if you will.
Yeah.
Okay. So what were some of the challenges? Because you drove down Sheridan Avenue, you saw Cody, you were like, okay, we're going to move here. What were some of the challenges, though, when you first came here? Was it the building? Was it getting the help? Was it employment, or was it employees? What were some of the challenges?
We didn't really have too much trouble. I did have one guy come up here from Southern California. He moved here from Stockton. He moved up to Wyoming.
Okay.
And he's still here. And it wasn't very long after we, you meet people and you say, hey, would you rather do this than what you're doing right now?
Yeah.
So would you rather build weapons or build unmanned aircraft? Hey, that's kind of a fun thing to go do. So it wasn't too hard to get people to come out there and work. And the work that we're doing is not all engineering work. I build things, and so it wasn't overly complicated. It's mostly composite engineering and building composites and then integrating systems into those aircraft as you build them.
You're not reinventing or inventing the wheel.
No.
You're taking the wheel as it exists and you're modifying it to do what you want to do.
But it goes along with what you're hearing today is bringing back America, where we build things in this country. And I have that in my head 25 years ago, 30 years ago, hey, we need to build this right here in the United States. And so that's what I am, a product manufacturer. Right. We build stuff.
Is it not a disadvantage, but is it harder to get DOD or the defense, the Pentagon, whomever, to basically take you seriously because you are in? Well, wait a minute. Where's Powell, Wyoming?
Yeah.
Or I would think that if you're next to Vandenberg or if you're next to an Air Force base, somewhere around there, that they'd be more likely to come. Is it harder to get attention because you're here, or is it kind of suit you because people can fly in, fly out, that nobody knows they're there? You can really operate what you need to do without having people monitor you.
I don't think that it matters. One of the things that in the DoD world, they really don't care where your company is. That's
they will
not
come
that
to
important.
you.
They're going to come to you. Well, typically they release, request for information, request for proposal. You answer that with a proposal.
Gotcha.
And we did all the way back, even when we were in Southern California. The first contract that we ever won was a Marine Corps contract, and then followed up with some Army contracts afterwards. So we had that history of being connected to the military via those contracts. And we still did. When we moved up here, Naval Surface Warfare Center kind of came to us and said, hey, you've got a UAV that can carry weapons. Would you be interested in working with us to develop that concept? And so we do. How
many other competitors do you have? How many other companies do what you do, and how do you find that edge, or how do you keep on the cutting edge and not just, we know how to do this, and that's all we need to know how to do? Like, how competitive is this business?
That's a hard question, because a lot of people have told me that I was 20 years ahead of my time. And that may be true. And so I'm starting to realize it now. I'm looking at it, and it's hard. I'm not patting myself on the back, but I had a vision, 25 years ago about weaponized unmanned aircraft. And I didn't think that, I thought everybody thought like that, and so when
it'd be an easy sell.
It should be an easy sell. So right now, I actually just wrote a letter to DOGE because of the fact that we built a certain type of system. The government, the DoD, had an urgent requirement for a counter UAS weapon system in 2006. And they put it out there. We ended up briefing at the Pentagon. We got called in by NORAD, NORTHCOM, and NAVAIR. They came to our shop. They said, oh, my gosh, you're building exactly what we're looking for. Would you be interested in doing this and doing a counter UAS to shoot down drones?
Right.
And so we started on that process in 2007, worked it all the way up to 2014, and they still don't have a system in play. And they just released, in fact, Department of Homeland Security just released a request for information for a counter UAS weapon system.
That's got to be frustrating.
So it's 25. We're in 2025, and 2006 was the first time that they had an urgent requirement for it. And they're still trying to field that system.
So how do you stay in business? I mean,
It's tough.
like, do you sell privately, or do you develop for private while waiting for the Defense Department to get their head out of their butts or something?
I'll go back to my premise. My premise is I'm a product manufacturer. I just heard it on a show the other day. I'm not a defense contractor. I'm a defense product company.
Gotcha.
And so we build it with our own money, and we put it together, and we take it to the government, and we say, here, buy this.
Right.
Yeah. How's that working out? Well, it's tough.
Yeah.
And so I put a lot of capital into the business. It's all my own money going into it mostly. Right. We do pick up little things here and there, but essentially that's the way it works.
Okay. So, Rebekah, from your perspective, how valuable is somebody like Tom to Powell, to Park County, as far as economic development? Okay, he's doing something very niche, very, he's not manufacturing socks, or something like that. He's, manufacturing something that maybe only the Defense Department would want, but he's still employing people and he's still paying taxes. How valuable, from your perspective, is people like him for Park County?
So if we go back to the idea of generational economic development, the patent for the land up on Polecat Bench for the Powell Municipal Airport was written by the Department of Interior back in 1946. So 1946, the feds basically gave the land to the town of Powell at the time, the city of Powell now, to create an airport.
Okay.
when you talk about is the intent slightly changed or dialed in for 2025, a UAV business and building a UAV niche at the Powell Airport is definitely looking through that lens, right? So in 1946, they weren't thinking we're going to have this be a UAV hub and manufacture UAVs and do testing and research and all that kind of stuff up here. But it's because of this business opportunity, which GT Aeronautics is extremely valuable to Powell, Wyoming, to Park County, and to the state of Wyoming. It's almost a gift from God. I would say sometimes these things happen, and they're almost divine.
Divine providence, yeah.
Divine providence. So the fact of the matter is what he needed, we could match. And you're looking at assets, right? Mm-hmm. So he's talked about wide open spaces. He's talked about essentially all government contracting and testing happens in a desert somewhere.
Yeah.
And guess what? Polecat Bench is a desert.
Mm-hmm.
It's a general aviation airport. So it's not a commercial airport. And so for listeners, basically commercial airport is CY Air. They're having, Delta or United come and fly in. This is a general aviation airport. And then on top of it, there are certifications that GT Aeronautics has received from the FAA to operate at the Powell Airport that makes it unique. So I think when you're talking about vision, imagination, curiosity, and courage, this project embodies all of those things in spades.
Okay.
You have to have a vision for it. It didn't exist until 1946. And if you go up there, yes, it's a general aviation airport. There's hangars, but it needs way further development than it has right now.
Like what? Infrastructure, buildings, something else?
So currently every 10 years, it's mandated that airports everywhere in the nation go through a planning process. And in that planning process, you have a planner. You have your local government officials involved, or whoever owns the airport, manages the airport. You have the FAA and YDOT. They all come together, yeah. And there's a plan. The local advisory airport board and PEP have been talking about the possibilities of the Powell Airport for years, and in many different waves. When I'm talking about generational academic development, my predecessor was the one who is responsible for getting Tom to move to Powell, Wyoming, right? And so picking up that ball and moving with it, it looks like, okay, what can we actually do at the airport today? What plans can we put in place to execute what is actually needed?
Yeah.
So those conversations with the local advisory airport board look like everybody identified that they wanted to have continue to have UAV manufacturing. Everybody said, you know what, we really need to cater to our more essential services and medical flights flying in and out. The Powell Airport is way more consistent because of the trajectory of, where you can land and honestly weather. So a lot of emergency flights come in and out of Powell. Identifying the type of FBOs, fixed-based operators that would really support the Powell Airport. And that looks like a slew of different things,
okay.
And we can go through that in the plan. But
okay, hold up. Let's take a break real quick, and we'll come back to that because there's something I want to ask both of you. This could change the landscape of Powell if it were to happen, and we'll walk through that scenario. We'll have more Speak Your Piece coming up on KODI. Speak Your Piece continues on KODI. The Park County Prosperity Series. We're about once a month, we're going to look at the economic growth through the lens of generational development. Today, my guests in studio, Rebekah Burns from the Powell Economic Partnership, Tom Rullman, who owns GT Aeronautics. If you can, Tom, brag a little bit more about the Powell Airport. What do they have that people really need to know that makes them different, that really should attract businesses, people, stuff to come to Powell and be part of this economic growth?
Well, I'd say, first of all, they have the opportunity to grow. Where if something is already there, it's much tougher to add things. And it'll go down to Bozeman Airport is completely built out. There is no more room to build businesses at Bozeman Airport.
Oh, but I thought Bozeman was supposed to like grow again.
Well,
like they put a bunch of money into it, and then they're putting more money into it.
It could be. I'm not aware of that.
Oh, okay.
But the last I checked down there, and one business in particular had built out all the hangars that they could build out, and they can't do anymore.
Okay.
So here's this opportunity at Powell Airport. We're right at the 10-year master plan where we're planning this next 10 years, and here's the growth that can happen.
Yeah.
You have the opportunity now. Dirt's still cheap, right? It's not as expensive, let's say, where I came from in Southern California.
Yeah, right.
Hangars down there cost millions to build. Up here, they don't cost millions to build.
Right.
So the beauty of it is the opportunity is there. And then we have, in particular for me with the unmanned aircraft, we have these wide open spaces which allow you to do that.
Right.
And so it's relatively uninhibited right now, and we've already set a precedence, certainly with the FAA, as here's how you do that. I can train people. Here's how you do that.
Right.
And we can help grow that part of it, just the UAV part of it. But if you're looking general aviation, like Rebekah was saying, aerial photography, crop dusting. I mean, UAVs are in Japan. UAVs are doing crop dusting. Period. They are.
Are they really?
But they don't. We don't have the rule making here in the States to be able to do that as effectively as they're doing it over there.
I see.
We have actually more rules than we probably need. So that's one of the things that's standing in the way. Mm-hmm. And so as we're learning more and more about the UAV industry, the FAA, they're starting to understand what needs to be done to make this happen.
Right. Okay. Rebekah, real quick, we got about 30 seconds left. What's the next step? What's the next couple of months look like with this proposal and where you are with the airport?
Sure. The next step is getting a rental study funded by the Powell, City of Powell, which I've already gone into front of the City Council and asked for the next steps on that. We need that rental study because we need to make sure that this development pencils. That's really the next step.
The next step. Okay.
Yeah. Then steps after that is applying for federal and state grant funding.
Okay.
Then after that, it looks like recruitment.
Okay. My guest today on Speak Your Piece, Tom Rullman, also Rebekah Burns, Powell Economic Partnership, and Tom owns a business that is. It sounds amazing, Tom. By the way, I mean I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you're in Park County, and let's hope that government contract comes through.
Yes, sir.
All right, that'll do it for Speak Your Piece. Have a great day. Thanks for coming in, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.